What's doing, guys? Big as Amp here. Thanks for tuning into the video. So I'm going to talk to you guys about my thoughts on Amazon's latest game, New World, particularly the PvP aspect of it, and hopefully help some people really decide on what weapons they want to use when launch day comes around. Firstly, I will say that I love New World's PvP. I think they've done an amazing job from closed beta to open beta to slightly rework some weapons. Also, they've changed the stamina system as well, so it is harder for people just to run away from you continuously. I think the PvP system is fluid, I think the skills are diverse enough, and I think they all have their own unique way of controlling the battlefield and a lot of different ways to spec them, which means you could cause some shock and chaos by breaking the mold and going rogue when choosing skills, doing things that people wouldn't expect. But I am a bow rapier player, and that's just me. I was originally spear and bow, but I found that I was lacking a lot of movement and maneuverability, which really didn't suit me at all, and I was actually getting frustrated. So about midway through closed beta a few months ago, I decided to give rapier a go. Now, I had watched some of Studi's videos on the lead up to closed beta, so I had a rough idea of what weapons I wanted to use, and if certain ones didn't work out, what I was going to run with. Also, shout out to Studi. If you haven't seen his channel, I suggest you go check it out. He gives really good in-depth guides on everything New World, PvP and PvE. Also, I have a link in the description below. Anyway, I was always obsessed with the notion of making sure I use two weapons that share the same stats. But I'm here to say that you don't have to do that at all. Obviously, with gems and attachments to weapons later on, that can help to counter the stat difference. But I'm here to say, play what feels like you. I'm lucky enough that the two weapons that really suit my playstyle are both dex items, but it's not the be-all end-all. Towards the end of closed beta, I even tried Firestaff Rapier, and I have to say that I loved it also. Big damage, big maneuverability, but a very player skill intensive class. During open beta, just recently, I went back to bow and rapier. Why? Well, I realized the way I was playing bow was very slow and lethargic, just to try hit big full charge shots and attacks. The skills I had weren't necessarily the best for my playstyle. So again, I changed up my style, started to play that was natural to me since I am an FPS player at heart. I've played competitively across multiple different FPS games over many years. Not pro level, of course, but I can back myself. Your boy can clap. But fast and twitchy is what I'm about. Lo and behold, I changed the way I played bow. I changed my skills to suit my playstyle. I changed how I shot. I changed basically everything about how I moved and how I was using the bow. Even though these necessarily weren't the recommended skills and way to play, and now I thoroughly enjoy it. Do some research and learn the different ways you can play the weapon, because not every set meta is gonna match your playstyle. Some weapons have got skills which have a cast time on them. Even with bow, there was rapid shot, which was considered one of the best PvP skills, and some people still swear by it, but you're basically planted still, shooting 3 arrows quickly can do extreme amounts of damage if you hit all 3 of those arrows, but it's very situational. If you haven't made enough of a gap, then you're going to have melee characters on you. Or if you're versing multiple people and you've made some sort of a gap, well, they could just be trying to range you instead. All of a sudden, you plant yourself standing still, you're going to be taking almost unnecessary damage. So that didn't really work for me. For some people it might, if you're able to, have a front line in front of you and be able to play the terrain really well. But for me, I needed skills which kind of were instant and almost like as quick as if I was just going to be using a heavy shot. So I swapped over to poison shot and penetrating shot, and I just found that really worked for my playstyle. So have a play around with the skills as well. Do a little bit of research in terms of what's what. There are some great websites out there that you can look at the skill trees and try and map out exactly how you want to play to the best of your ability when New World launches. So I pose the question to you: in every other game, what weapons do you use? For me, I'm a sniper guy in modern shooters, always have been, and I also like to get in close with a sniper as well and challenge myself with hard shots. So the choices for me were bow, musket, or Firestaff, and I fell on bow because I believe it has the greatest ceiling cap as well. But what are you? Are you a sneaker, fast moving, weaving in and out, death by 1,000 cuts kind of guy? Maybe you're a berserker who wants nothing more than to have the biggest weapon you can lift and attack with. Maybe a caster, wizard or mage, healer with the ability to dish out damage and also be able to heal, a warrior priest. Maybe you're a combination. Do you want to be like that warrior priest where you're a healer for your team but loves wielding a hard-hitting two-hander? For me, since I'm not a sit back type of range guy, musket was off the cards for me. Low maneuverability, lower damage than other range weapons, no escapes or gap closes, but still reliable damage and can be very effective in the right hands if used well in a group setting. It can be a pain in the ass if you're versing multiple people and they zone you well enough to make sure that you can't put pressure on their musket player, and so he's just unpressured popping off on you. But it's a risk reward system. If all of a sudden that musket player becomes pressured and they have someone who knows what they can do, well, you may have a hard time beating that player with just pure PvP skill or one weapon. It all depends on what your second weapon that you may be using. You are rewarded for hitting hard, difficult shots, but you still need to be able to hit them. In a game where people can dodge to avoid incoming damage, even the players that can hit those shots still miss. So don't make it any harder on yourself than it needs to be. Leading on from that, it's all dependent on player skill. All these high risk, high reward weapons like bow, fire staff, ice gauntlet have a trade-off. So if you aren't the most confident player or having to actually aim is new to you, since this is an MMO, so we will be seeing a lot of other people come from different games, some of which, if not all of them, don't have an accurate aiming mechanic for skills in their games. Don't play these heavy-hitting, high-risk weapons right off the bat. That's if you are wanting to PvP. Obviously, PvE is a different story. But there's no point running around and using a weapon which you hit 10% of your shots, or you use the skills terribly. That won't be enjoyable for anyone. Now, I'm not saying not to use the certain weapons at all, but I am saying that later on, when you're high level, you have gotten used to the aiming aspect of it, maybe fiddled around with your sensitivity, you can always go back and learn the weapons you want. You get more weapon mastery for killing high level mobs, since the lower level mastery levels of weapons don't actually need that much XP to level up. So you would be able to get your weapons to a competent level pretty damn quick once you've gotten the game down pat. Ceiling caps are going to be massive. This is also why I use the weapons I do. I believe there's more room to grow in them than some other standard combos. But if you think just because you are playing the top-rated PvP meta that it will make you a good player like Fire Staff Ice Gauntlet, but you don't have the skill or reactions to back it up because you haven't given yourself enough time to be able to learn it properly, or just learn the basics of this game and this whole new experience to you, well, you're going to have a rude awakening and the game's going to become very unenjoyable. Playing something that causes people to think twice about attacking you may be the way to go if you're one of these people. Spear, for instance, great weapon for CC, longer range stab and still can hit incredibly hard. I know when I come up against a spear player that I'm playing a lot more cautious than I normally would, just because of the amount of CC and combos that they can do. Add on the javelin throw and you can now CC targets at medium range also. I would even be controversial to say if you're a complete noob, then maybe going spear and hatchet could be something as well. Gaining speed and health from using a skill on hatchet called berserker. And then you can run around and basically regain HP and still be able to use some skills on that while you gain HP. And then being able to swap back over to spear when your skills are up. That's kind of scary. It could be a lot of fun for you. It could suit your playstyle massively. Or maybe even pair the spear with a musket if you still want a ranged weapon. And now you've got a great reliable combo. The issue then would be the maneuverability. But do you need it? Is that how you play? Can you keep them at distance and then pop off with the musket when you get a chance? You need to remember, how do you play when picking your weapons? Even a life staff with a great axe is an amazing combo if you want to spec hard into focus to make sure you can heal as much as you can. And then the damage will just come from the great axe, just purely because it's a big two-handed weapon that hits hard and has high damage cap. What goes hand in hand with your weapon selection will be your armor selection. Do you want to be able to cover great distances with your dodge and be able to move around the battlefield quickly, in and out kind of fighter, and deal additional 20% damage. Or maybe you are happy to take less damage by having a heavier armor, which is the medium armor. You only deal 10% increased damage, but you also get 10% increase on your CC abilities, so your crowd control abilities are 10% stronger. Or maybe you just want to be an absolute beast, an absolute tank, a juggernaut. Maybe that's your playstyle, where you have a very small hop, obviously weighed down by the armor, but you take the most reduction in damage, and also you get 20% increase on your CC abilities and 15% shield stability. So maybe if you're a sword and board or a tank and shield, like that's your playstyle, well, you might want to go with that armor instead. There'll be so many different builds and weapon combos in the future. Who knows? You could potentially stumble across the next big thing or meta just because you are playing the way you imagine yourself playing this game and you're enjoying it. With the amount of info coming out from way more successful YouTubers than myself, don't get caught into the trap of having to play a set way. Want to just have a one-handed sword with no shield? Go for it. Never seen it done before. Don't know if it would be good paired with anything, like maybe even a 5-star. It could be amazing. You could become the tankiest battle mage anyone has ever seen, all because you didn't follow the mold. Anyway, guys, I really hope this helped you. I hope it kind of gives you a little bit more clearer direction of how unimportant it is at the start to be picking a certain way and playing these weapons a certain way. You know, play it how you want to. If you've got any questions, be sure to leave them down in the comment section. I'll get around to them and answer them as best I can. And if you enjoyed this video or you found it really helpful, please be sure to like and subscribe for more content. I'm going to start streaming in the near future. I'm going to be taking this whole YouTube thing a bit more seriously, instead of just putting up montage clips over the years. So I really do appreciate any support that you guys can show. Anyway, appreciate it, guys. Take care. See ya.